Good morning. Welcome everyone to this other session of OpenShift TV Coffee Break. This morning I'm here with my colleague and friend Jaafar. Hey, how are you, Jaafar?
Hey, Natale, I'm good. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here again. As you know, I've been away for some time, and I'm good to be back here with you. And today we're missing our dear friend Tero, but I'm sure he's gonna be here
Tero, I think he's
soon.
sick. Tero,
Yes.
welcome back soon.
Yeah.
Take care, welcome back soon in our next episode in 2 weeks. But
Yep.
today, Jaafar, we have a show where we're gonna do a little recap about what happened in the KubeCon North America, and also we have some very nice announcement from that we did some announcement from Red Hat for OpenShift. There are lots of stuff: OpenShift 4.9, OpenShift for Edge.
Correct.
I think it was an exciting week.
Yeah, and yes, and it's also not only the KubeCon but also the new release. I think we have packed a lot of things there that we have been waiting for quite some time. So that's great, and I hope people are gonna enjoy the content.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing that come to mind to me, Jaafar, is that we weren't there. So I'm really jealous that we couldn't join KubeCon North America. Is there anyone from the chat that had the chance to attend KubeCon North America on site? This is a kind of a EMEA time zone show, so I don't know if any one of you has the opportunity, the chance to do that. Please share with us in the chat. We would like to hear from you the feedback. Because Jaafar, I've seen from Twitter, all the people were excited, enthusiastic about being there finally in person, Axe and 5up and shaking hands in the safe way, of course. But it was amazing.
Yeah. So indeed, it's so everything we say now is only hearsay. We heard that. We haven't been there. So but I heard from some of my colleagues that it was weird actually to be in an on-site conference event. So after almost 2 years of the pandemic, they have gotten used to doing virtual things like this. And he told me that the first maybe 10 minutes, it was weird for him to be like surrounded by people, and but weird in a good way. Like it's good to be back to normal life and real on-site events, etc. So yeah, maybe next week or next KubeCon we'll be able to make it there. But for now, it's gonna be hearsay.
And please let us know in the chat if anyone also attended the virtual event, because this was an hybrid event. It was in person and virtual. So like us, we were there virtually. We also joined the virtual office hour. For in our case, that was Red Hat has some virtual office hour. One was for the GitOps. That was I can share that was very participated. Lots of people, lots of questions. Many interesting questions that we should invite Jaafar Siamak again in the show and bring back all those questions, because there was a architectural question or just how to get started with GitOps, things like that. So very interesting when the community meet and share those feedbacks.
Yeah, exactly. So as a product vendor or software vendor, we of course have our ways of presenting things, and we present features, etc. And what's nice in these events also is that you have also people that share sometimes best practices. You have the customers who explain how they are using the tooling, to accomplish what they need to do in their day-to-day business. So yeah, if you look at things like OpenShift Commons, for instance, there's a lot of tons of valuable information that you get from how people actually do their job. So yeah, it's always nice to have both sides of things. So how the software ecosystem evolves, but also how the usage of anything also evolves, and how people come to best practices. And from what I heard, in fact, there's a lot of talk about GitOps, and our GitOps attendance was very good. We had a lot of people attending, and from what I heard, they were also, asking about how to embrace GitOps. So the concept of GitOps is becoming understood, what it allows you to do, etc. But so it's the same situation as when people started to talk about DevOps. So we knew what DevOps was, but we rarely knew how to put it effectively in an enterprise scope in the beginning. When I say we, I don't mean Red Hat. I mean people in general who were interested in DevOps. And the same thing happens with GitOps now. So they see the value and they are interested in how to do things. So that's probably one of the things that you will hear more and more from Red Hat. But we have our dear colleague Christian Hernandez, who has his GitOps guide to the Galaxy, which has been airing for quite some time now. And I think he does a great job at sharing, knowledge or advice on how to do things, and not just focusing on tooling and features, etc. So, yeah, I think we will see more stuff like that coming up, not only from Red Hat but also from the industry at large.
That's a great point, Jaafar. And actually, I was putting in the chat, I was looking for, we have the link for the GitOps guide to the Galaxy. It's a show that we have here at OpenShift TV, made by our colleague, Christian Hernandez. If you want to get started with GitOps, this show is very interesting. It's a series of episodes where Christian and some guests explore on some topic of GitOps. And it's very interesting because there is a lot to learn. And as you say, Jaafar, it's having great momentum, but people also would like to understand what we collect from as feedback. People would like to understand where to start to learn GitOps. I think we have some resources also in our website. I put in the chat the landing page to understand what is GitOps, how Red Hat implements GitOps in OpenShift. And we have also some labs to start learning GitOps if you're interested. But yeah, definitely recommend joining. And Jaafar, thanks for saying that, because I think that one of the coolest thing of the KubeCon North America was the 0-day event, the co-located event. For those of you that are not aware, what are those co-located? Those are kind of a mini conf before the conference itself. Usually the conference happens in a week. So let's say Wednesday, Friday. Those co-locators are Mondays or Tuesdays, kind of. So usually on Monday, those events happens. And I can share, Jaafar, that the most participated one was OpenShift Commons that you mentioned, as well with GitOps. Yeah. For those of you that couldn't watch the OpenShift Commons, I put the link in the chat. I hope you will get soon. I read that there's some issue with the chat with Restream, but it should arrive soon. Yes, I can see that. So this is the recording. There was a session on very interesting session like what is the life of a site reliability engineer by our colleague Sasha Rosenbaum, and some OpenShift roadmap, and also other interesting talk about Kubernetes, Helm. So I really recommend you to check out the video. And from the chat, there's Vikas. Hey, Redat, I'm hoping where could you help to join up with your company? Of course, Vikas. We have our job portal. Let me check if I have handy the link as career or job. You can check out our job portal we have lots of open position. We are hiring a lot, moreover, in this cloud native Kubernetes landscape. So definitely check out our career website, and I hope to see you soon in the family here to make great things together with us.
Yeah, sure. And I think even in our teams we have many openings that just happened like in the past 2 weeks.
Oh.
So yeah, I think there are 5 or 6 open positions just within our team, my team at least. So yeah, just go ahead and crawl that portal and see if you find something interesting, and yeah, let us know if we can.
That's fantastic, Jaafar. So if you want to become a technical marketing manager as Jaafar, doing a very cool stuff, the OpenShift view, working with customers, joining community, check out definitely the open position for that role. If you like to join, we have lots of places in engineering, site reliability engineer. Jaafar, to come back to the KubeCon, I think site reliability engineer was the hot topic of the conference.
Yeah.
There was lots of session regarding that topic. I would like to hear from you. What do you think about this momentum also for this role that is having great place today?
So the way I think about it is, in terms of momentum, Kubernetes has now become a de facto platform. Like it's becoming part of the core IT systems of many customers. I'm not speaking about only OpenShift, but as Kubernetes at large. And I think that now people are in a position where they need to have reliable systems, because they have put critical applications on top of their Kubernetes platforms. And of course, we have many customers, thousands of customers who are using OpenShift as a critical business platform. And what comes with that is, of course, it gives you great value in terms of being able to deploy new applications faster, etc. But you have to make sure that everything stays green almost all the time. So that's why probably the SRE responsibility is becoming predominant and such an important aspect, because probably the customers have reached this level of maturity where now the Kubernetes platform is becoming critical, and it needs to stay up all the time. So yeah, shifting from a concept that was introduced by some people like Google, etc., to a more broadly accepted kind of responsibility, because it's not a job as per se, it's a responsibility spanning across many areas, and that's probably why it has become one of the hot topics in the Kubernetes ecosystem, or at least in KubeCon this year. So
I agree.
And the other thing that I heard was security. I think one of the hottest topics also. But yeah, maybe we can speak about that a bit later on. So yeah, that's my view about the SRE thing, why it's becoming so critical and widely talked about. That's only my opinion, but maybe you have a different take on that. I don't know what you think about it.
I totally agree with you, Jaafar. And actually, you introduced another hot topic of KubeCon that was the security part. So we're having more and more attention security for DevSecOps or any security aspect because it's becoming crucial. No, any company need to keep security in mind for the first time. And I catch the opportunity also to share in the chat our Red Hat presence at KubeCon, because we have a session. We had a session at the keynote by Luke Hintz, a security supply chain vision. And that was interesting because the security, the idea is to put the security in the wall, in the wall pipeline. Let's say, we start developing with the inner loop, and then we go into the outer loop with GitOps and all these tools. But we need to put security from the first the action, like scanning the code, checking static analysis, then scanning the container image, and then scanning the process running with the vulnerability assessment. So this is an overall security, and Kubernetes ecosystem, it's also embracing it. There are the SIG group for security. There are many open source projects, and also CNCF project that can be sandboxed. So the security area is getting lots of attention, and this is important.
Yeah, correct. And so just what we saw as an evolution in the past years is security. So if you think about a DevOps pipeline, and I'm not saying DevSecOps, voluntarily, because I'm introducing the concept. So if you think about DevOps, people used to put security as a box within the pipeline, like as a step within the pipeline. We code, we build, we deploy to QA, and then we do security, and then we deploy to production. So I'm just summarizing, but security, everybody now becomes aware that security is not just a box, it's not just a step in your dev pipeline. That's why they started calling it the DevSecOps pipeline, because it needs to be taken care of in the whole life cycle, from every step within your pipeline. Security is something that is like, spread everywhere, and not just one gateway at some time where you say, okay, did you pass security checks for your container, or did you pass security checks for your application functional tests, or did you pass security for your code, etc. So security is everywhere within the pipeline, and that's probably why also it's becoming a hot topic, because there's not one single security tool. There's a whole chain of things that can be used to do code scanning, to do secure image scanning, to do vulnerability scanning for your images, etc. So yeah, I think it's becoming one of the also hottest topics, because it's fundamental to have your critical apps deployed in a secure way in production, and you need to take care of that along every step in the pipeline.
I agree. That's why, Jaafar, probably one of the reasons that Red Hat also acquired StackRox, company that was working already in security for the wall chain, no? And there are many other companies right now focusing on that part, because it's something that we need to take care, as Jaafar said, from the first time, from the beginning. And the integration with, in our case, where already that acquired StackRox is open sourcing the StackRox software, and is part of our offering in the Red Hat OpenShift. Just an example on how high is the attention now in DevSecOps and security topics.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying. Let me say that security has been, since we are on OpenShift TV, security has been from the beginning the focus of OpenShift with SC Linux and the host SC Linux at the container, and the container runtime, which is Cryo, now in version 1.22, together with Kubernetes 1.22. This is part of the new stuff, new cool stuff that we have in OpenShift for the 9. But I just wanted to mention that security has been present from the first time in OpenShift, and now also the Kubernetes community is embracing this with OPA and other gatekeeper. So there are lots of projects that help enforcing and keeping secure your Kubernetes cluster. Then other projects can help just making sure that everything in the cluster and everything that runs in the cluster is secure as well.
Yeah, correct. And so, in fact, what you mentioned about ACS is a great example of how security, can be thought about from different perspectives. And of course, as you said, OpenShift had security in mind from day one because it was built on our foundation, which is RHEL, and which has been known for many, for decades as a secure Linux platform to run the applications. And we had things like, very sophisticated things like the SECs, like the security, the SECs that allowed us to define what pods could do or not, etc. And that went then upstream in the upstream Kubernetes stuff. So from the downstream OpenShift, where we implemented that into upstream Kubernetes as the PSPs, pod security policies. So those were very technical things that are built in the underlying layers. But as we moved forward and customers started adopting it, and some security vendors started to build specific things for Kubernetes, we saw that there was a strong shift into providing great tooling to be able to not only scan the containers, but scan the images, the static images in the registries for CVEs and stuff like that, but also do like runtime scans for processes that are happening within the containers, and be able to isolate them if you are suspecting untrusted behavior inside your containers and stuff like that, but also be able to secure communications between containers and check with network policies if some container is allowed to speak to another one, or if it should be prevented to do so, etc. And as we acquired ACS, formerly StackRox, and it's become part of the OpenShift Plus family product, it really took security to another level. Well, not only we had the deep-rooted security features in the platform, but now we provided also the on-top security features that allows you as an administrator or as a security engineer to be able to provide feedback and check what's happening at runtime, and act upon what's happening in your cluster, and not just static things like when you build an image or when you push an image to a registry or something like that.
Right. This is complementary. I think it's complementary from also what we could have the secure inner loop, because we have an extension for modern IDE, which is the dependency analytics extension. So you can download from for IntelliJ, for Visual Studio Code. When you download the Red Hat dependency analytics extension, you have there's an integration with Snyk. Snyk is a SaaS for bringing security scan in your software. So when you use this extension, it's gonna scan your software locally and look for any any things that may be wrong, any well-known security issue. So you can start scanning your software before you bring, as you say, to the platform, and the platform can start the loop, like creating the container image and scanning. So there's an overall ecosystem in Kubernetes that help you bringing security on the first step. But Jaafar, this was one of the topics that we have at KubeCon. Other good things that we heard from keynotes, from a session, is that many companies started donating project to the community. There was, for instance, Splunk that donated its own OpenTelemetry EBPF collector to the CNCF. This is an example that how companies working in together in the community can share the best that they produce, and then everyone can take benefit. For those of you who are not aware of what is eBPF, is a protocol that more than protocol is a networking system that help improving the network performance in your operating system, and in this case in Kubernetes. We know why I say this, because observability metering is one of the other hottest points in Kubernetes, since you're supposed to manage lots of workloads, lots of microservices, probably. So you need to take care, you need to track consumption, you need to track usage. We mentioned the site reliability engineering. Well, this is the bread of SRE, metrics, observability, and it's cool that we have many tools like this for the OpenTelemetry, this OpenTelemetry project, open in the community to get support to Kubernetes for metrics and observability. So to talk about KubeCon, there was lots of announcement about like this. Also announcement from companies that probably updated their software offering, their Kubernetes offering. Let me also share what Red Hat announced at KubeCon. We announced two things. One is the enhanced developer experience with Kubernetes, because in Red Hat OpenShift 4.9, the new version that is GA from this week, we have an enhanced developer experience, because there is more and more integration in the web console for Helm chart, Argo CD, so GitOps, and other stuff that can like operators, and also so this was an I put in the chat the link for this announcement for the developer experience. The other thing, Jaafar, which is very interesting and cool, is that we announced, Red Hat announced the support for single node OpenShift. For those of you that were waiting for this,
Sorry.
I know the many of you were waiting for this for a long time.
I was one of them.
You were one of them, yeah, everyone. So, Jaafar, can you please explain what is single node OpenShift and why it should really empower edge computing support and offering?
So for those who have been familiar with OpenShift, so Natalie, I'm glad I'm back, because I think I dropped.
Yeah, I see.
For a few seconds. Yeah. So is everything fine now? Can you hear me correctly?
I can hear you, and
okay.
I can see in the OBS window that you are there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So so for those of you who have been familiar with OpenShift and with Kubernetes in general, you know that there are some components, some very important components like etcd that need to be in at least have 3 etcds, and so that's why we came up with the architecture where you have 3 masters for OpenShift 4 and as many workers as you want then, but that was like the strict minimum. And some people who had some edge use cases, or who didn't want to invest much more infrastructure to have a minimal cluster, were asking, how can I reduce the size of my OpenShift cluster or even my Kubernetes cluster and still benefit from everything that you provide, like the operators, the monitoring, the CI/CD, etc. So we have worked on that heavily, and the first step towards that was the compact cluster, which was a minimum of 3 masters who are already also workers. So that was a first step towards minimizing the number of resources needed for OpenShift to work. And then some other work was done to be able to compact all of that and be able to provide all those services into one single instance. And of course, what it means is, because the primary reason when you are duplicating the instances of like etcd and stuff like that is to have the ability to have the quorum, for instance, in case of malfunction somewhere, in order to provide HA. But when you move to a single node cluster, so there are benefits, which are, you have all the features of OpenShift, and now I say all the features compared to Kubernetes containers, for instance, where you had some things that were not available. Now it's like a fully deployable OpenShift cluster that you can use for production, and where you have all the services, you have the marketplace, you have the monitoring, you have telemetry if you choose to, etc. The only thing is that it's not going to be HA, of course, because it's already into a single cluster. But I was really very pleased when I tried it. So I deployed OpenShift on a single node where I had, I think, something like 32 gigs of RAM, and it worked very nicely, and I was able to consume many services. So yeah, that's a very nice announcement for all of our customers who are looking to have remote, so autonomous OpenShift clusters in remote locations or stuff like that. So when we talk about the OpenShift Edge story, there are many patterns that you can use. So you can have a central OpenShift cluster that talks to remote workers. So that's one of the patterns that you can have. But that remote worker is not like a standalone OpenShift. It's just a worker that has been designed to cope with latency issues or disconnections and stuff like that. And now it's really a different pattern where you can have a fully running OpenShift cluster in just one node and have all the services working there. So that's a great addition, and it's so I tried doing it with the assisted installer, which is still I think beta for now. But yeah, it generates an ISO file. You deploy it on your instance, or you can also run it on bare metal, and then everything works. So yeah, it was a very pleasant experience, and I'm really happy to even for my experimenting labs, I can now strip down my infrastructure and have many clusters, 5, 6 clusters running on my own lab instead of maybe 5, 6 VMs for one OpenShift cluster. So,
well, Jaafar, this is thanks for this, because it gave me the opportunity to talk about also an Hackfest that we're going to deliver for with using OpenShift for Edge. But I was wondering, do you have any Twitch and OpenShift TV is very informal. Do you have any cluster that you can show us with a single node OpenShift on the fly, or?
As of now, it's not started. And if I started, the server is like next to my computer here, so it's gonna do a lot of noise. But yeah, we can you know what, we can plan for that for our next session, and
yes,
let's present that, and yeah, we can also show different steps from how you install it and how you use it. The great thing is that installation is more or less like a standard OpenShift cluster, but the features are exactly the same. So that's what I really liked, is I have all of the OpenShift functionalities except that they are all running inside one node. So that's
fantastic.
Really awesome.
And this, fantastic. So let's do for the next time. Let's do a session for a single node OpenShift Edge, so we can see that in action. But I also wanted to share in the chat the Hackfest. There's going to be November the 2nd, an Hackfest around OpenShift, single node OpenShift, so OpenShift for Edge and Edge computing. This is an Hackfest using Quarkus for IoT. So it's using Quarkus technology for Java, running Java optimized application for the Edge, and using OpenShift to make an IoT project, which is in this case collecting and gathering data from the pollution from outside, and gathering all this data to monitor and track the pollution. And so the idea around this Hackfest is that this is for Red Hat partners, but it's a community project. This community project is available on Git, and I can also share the link in a moment. The idea is really to use OpenShift, single node OpenShift, to have those entities at the edge, and we're talking to sensor. Sensor will connect data from the outside, and then they will send all the data to a central OpenShift, which is something which is controlling the let's say supersetting the other OpenShift at the edge. So I think it's a nice example on how you can use single node OpenShift, edge computing, and also there's a Java technology, there's Kafka, there's MQ, there is Influx, so time series database. It's very nice project. I send the link in the chat if you are interested on the Hackfest and in the project itself. I think this is an example on how you can take benefit of this single node OpenShift. So that this is what we announced at KubeCon. Another announce, Jaafar, was for the enhanced capability of the advanced cluster manager for Kubernetes. So the new version, the 2.4, is able to work more and more closely to Argo CD and OpenShift GitOps. So OpenShift GitOps is our implementation around Argo CD, which is the upstream project implementing GitOps. The 2.4 is having more support for edge capability for deploying single node cluster, or zero touch provisioning, and also, as we said, more and more support for GitOps app. Jaafar, do you have any thought, any feedback about ACM and GitOps and Edge? Can you foresee some architecture that may be interesting?
So yeah, it's not a topic that I have digged so much for the moment, but yeah, of course, what it means is as you're going to grow your fleet of remote on-site single nodes or workers, etc., you're going to want to industrialize the way that you are going to manage those, because say, for instance, you had one central or 5 central clusters that you managed prior to that, and you had hundreds of nodes they are all part of those 5 clusters. So that's something that is still, manageable. You have your Argo CD that is deployed either centrally or either on each of those clusters. And then you have your whatever tooling that you are using to manage those clusters. You are still managing hundreds of nodes through a very minimal set of entry points, which are the Kubernetes API or whatever stuff you are doing on those nodes. Now imagine if every single one of those workers becomes a fully autonomous single node OpenShift cluster. That means that now you are managing hundreds of 100 clusters and not just 100 nodes part of 5 clusters. So it becomes a whole another level of scaling. And I believe that ACM is going to play a great role in providing an easy way to manage those hundreds of single node clusters or edge clusters in a centralized way where you can define, so here's everything I want to be applied to all my clusters, like policies. Whenever I create a new cluster, here are the set of settings and policies that need to be applied. If anything is not compliant, then I can enforce compliance by modifying stuff on those remote clusters. So that's one of the I'd say first patterns that ACM is going to help a lot with. And of course, with the GitOps thing, so you can, again, as I mentioned, you can either choose to have a central Argo or OpenShift GitOps instance that is located on your central point of management, or you can, with ACM, manage those OpenShift GitOps instances on all of those remote clusters. And then each of those OpenShift GitOps, meaning Argo CD instances, is going to locally maintain what is running on that single node cluster. So meaning if something wrong happens, if a configuration is tampered with, the local Argo CD or OpenShift instance is going to correct that. And you are minimizing, the communication between, back and forth, your central Argo CD instances and all of those 100 clusters. So it's really, in an edge mentality, things are autonomous where they are. So yeah, I think that's one of the patterns that are going to be, most. That's what I think.
Most adopted.
Adopted, having autonomous remote clusters, maybe single node clusters. So again, it depends. You can have compact clusters, you can have single node clusters, you can have a real full OpenShift cluster with 3 masters and as many workers as you need. It depends on, if you're running a huge facility, or if you are like Chick-fil-A having hundreds of restaurants where you want to have your local Kubernetes instance. It depends on the use cases. But yeah, I think that's going to be a pattern. And the good thing is that if you are using ACM to manage that, you can apply all the same things to your full OpenShift regular clusters, and just likewise to your single node OpenShift clusters, etc. So I think that's how these things are going to play together.
That's very interesting, to be honest. And I shared in the chat also the upstream bit for Advanced Cluster Manager for OpenShift, which is the ACM. So this is the the upstream bit you can run in Kubernetes. So just a reminder that everything we do here is open source. So you can use Open Cluster Manager in any Kubernetes, and on OpenShift you can use Advanced Cluster Manager and management with an operator. So you can just elect your cluster as a controller of other cluster. So one cluster is managing other clusters. Another interesting use case, since we are talking about edge, is the remote workers use cases. So, and Jaafar, this is interesting because we got this question about latency. So what should be the latency in all this Kubernetes class? If there is a Kubernetes cluster control plane somewhere and the worker somewhere at the far edge, what is the latency? It's a question which is not, is, you know, I think it's, I don't know if you have any technical insight about this. But my impression is that the workers has not that strict requirement like the control plane in terms of latency.
Yeah, so indeed, when you talk about the control plane, I believe that in the early days of Kubernetes, we used to say that the minimum latency, or the maximum latency actually, needed to be around 5 milliseconds. And so that's for the control planes, but there wasn't a strict, I would say, latency issue for the workers, except when they report back to the masters in order to know how many pods are running and stuff like that. So there's back and forth communication between the masters, of course, to synchronize the etcds and stuff like that, and there's back and forth communication between the masters and the workers, but there isn't indeed as much latency, I would say, contingencies between the worker and the masters as and the control plane, because we shouldn't say masters anymore, as between the control planes themselves. But what I know is that some specific work has been done on the remote workers to be able to cope with latency in case. So it's much more than what was tolerable with a traditional, I would say, worker. I don't have the figures exactly, but that's something that we can find. But I know that there were some specific tunings for the remote workers to be able to cope with intempestive connection drops between the worker and the control planes, and if there was also latency issues. So so yeah, there was some specific work done for that. I just don't have exactly the figures, but we can find that. I think if we go back to one of the What's New sessions, where we introduced the remote workers, maybe it was 4.6. We can find those details in there.
So yeah, that was just a note, because we have lots of interesting use cases with Edge now, single node, but also remote workers. So you can compose your Kubernetes topology at your convenience. That was super interesting. I think we have we discovered two things that we need to investigate. One is the single node OpenShift in the next session, and also we should do a session about the new feature of OpenShift Edge. Today was just a recap of what's new, but we can do another session where we show in a demo all the new feature on 4.9. Please, if you want to try it, please try it out. Go in. I put in the chat the link to go to this link to try OpenShift 4.9. You can download with CRC locally, or you can try in our managed offering. So you can try right now on 4.9. I tried myself yesterday on ROSA, Red Hat OpenShift on AWS. Very nice and smooth experience. So definitely we have material for the next session. But for today's session, another feedback that I saw that lots in KubeCon, lots of people would like to learn Kubernetes, would like to get started, would like to get guidance. We have this website, which is Kube by Example, that I would like to also share in the chat. If you go to the website that I put in the chat, Kube by Example, this website is really nice, nice reference where you can start learning Kubernetes, and also investigate additional topics that you want to investigate. So you can get started with the Kubernetes basics, but also you can understand the Linux essential, Kubernetes fundamentals, application development on Kubernetes, developing an application on Kubernetes. So I really recommend you to go to this website, and please let us know any feedback that you have on it. There are what we call the learning path. I recommend definitely the Kubernetes fundamentals learning path. Let me share also in the chat, because it contains nice videos, 3 minutes videos explaining core concept like pod, deployment, daemon set, stateful set. Those are the core concepts of Kubernetes, and then you can go and explore more. And I saw, Jaafar, also in KubeCon, lots of people were interested on getting experienced in Kubernetes. I think there is lots of how to get started. Probably what is still missing, how I get proficient with Kubernetes. Other than the experience, do you have any other suggestion?
So if I'm speaking from my proper experience, I know that the best way to learn things is to really experiment them. So I'm a very hands-on guy. So if I see there's a new topic, I'm gonna try to play with it, deploy it, and see how things work, rather than read how they work. So that's basically how I was, how I've been working in the past 15 years or so. So that's how I would recommend to do things. Of course, it's good to read how things work, but whenever you get a chance, spin up a cluster and do some exercises, do some examples, go through some examples, and that's how you really start to understand how things work. Yeah, that's my suggestion is always hands-on.
Hands-on. Yeah. Definitely hands-on. It's a great suggestion. Another thing that I would like to recommend is joining the Kubernetes community, which is very active. So there are the SIG group, so the group of where the community meets. If you like to get more, you go in the Kubernetes website, you go in the group, you go join the community, and you can join these meetings that the community you can select your favorite topic. Kubernetes very has a lots of area where you can investigate. You like metering, you like security, you like application development. You can join one of these group of interest and join the community. It's one of the most important thing that may speed up your Kubernetes journey. This is my final recommendation on that. So what we got from KubeCon North America, Jaafar, other than we weren't there, unfortunately, is that there are lots of cool stuff going on. The Kubernetes development is going very fast. There are things to please catch up with the official announcement where they will wrap up all the announcement that were there. And also the other thing cool that they announced is that the new KubeCon is going to be in Valencia, in Spain, in May, if I recall correctly. Hope we can be there in person this time. If you are if you can, please join, because this is the coolest event for Kubernetes and cloud native.
So one other topic, I don't know if we spoke about it regarding like the OpenShift 4.9 announcements. Did we speak about service mesh or?
No.
Yeah, so one of the hottest topics, if you look at the service mesh in general, has been for the past maybe year or so, how you manage cross-cluster communications, so multi-cluster deployments. And so I'm happy to say that with the new release of OpenShift Service Mesh, we have announced support for multi-cluster meshes. So that's a great thing because you can now have services that are managed across different clusters. And we were speaking about Edge, and if you are willing to use Edge and microservices and stuff like that, and you will have some communications happening between microservices that are running on different clusters. So that's something that you would be able to do now to be able to manage cross-cluster nodes in terms of communication, security, etc. So that's also one of the great announcements that were made with that last version of OpenShift 4.9.
Awesome. This is the Service Mesh 2.1
Yes.
based on Istio 1.9. And it's important, thanks Jaafar for pointing this out. It's important that we're supporting multi-cluster also at the Service Mesh level. So we're going more and more multi-cluster, multi-cloud. So that's why Kubernetes, it's becoming so ubiquitous. No, it's everywhere. It's at the edge, it's on multiple clouds, multiple cluster. We need something that keep all in sync. Can be in our ACM for provisioning or governance, and Service Mesh can be the tool that really keep the application in sync and make some layer to control the traffic between those applications. I put a link in the chat if you are interested on Service Mesh and understanding more what is Service Mesh and how can address your, let's say, cloud native challenges or your application development. And yeah, those were one of the hottest things that we announced at KubeCon. I have another news to say that Developer Sandbox, which is our free cloud Kubernetes experience that we offer, it's now supporting also serverless workloads. So let me share in the chat Sandbox URL. If you go here, you get an account for free for developer.com and you join an OpenShift cluster for free. You can start deploying and trying out your Kubernetes workloads. And also you can try out Knative, which is the serverless implementation in Kubernetes. So if you like to explore more the topic about serverless, you can now try it out directly on Developer Sandbox. So please register on Sandbox and let us know any feedback that you have.
And Natale, thank you for bringing that up because this afternoon, actually, I will be co-hosting a session about OpenShift serverless.
Where?
So yeah, on OpenShift TV. So it's gonna be on the Level Up hour. So yes, guys, if you want to know more about serverless, please come this afternoon. It's at 3 p.m. Our time, EMEA time zone. So yeah, if you go on the OpenShift TV channel, you will be able to see the schedule there. But yes, please.
Yeah, let me put in the chat the calendar.
Come to the serverless session. We're gonna have the PMs. We're gonna have a demo. We're gonna have just a conversation about basically what serverless, how it works, how we implement it. So yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting session.
I think it's great. I won't miss it. So 3 p.m. and this, thanks Jaafar for reminding this. Please look at the agenda that we have on OpenShift TV today. This is our EMEA time zone show. Let's say EMEA or APAC. So it's covering this part of the world, let's say, for the time zone. Then in our afternoon, we go in the global, let's say, schedule. So 3 p.m. there's Jaafar in the Level Up hour talking about serverless with the PMs. Then there's the Ask an OpenShift admin at 5 p.m. And then there's another show about RHEL at 8, as I see. So please check the calendar. We are in the final moments of our show. Thank to everyone for attending. Thank Jaafar for being here today.
Thanks,
it has been a great conversation. I just want to remind that OpenShift Coffee Break will come back November the 3rd with the OpenShift, the single node OpenShift session that we mentioned today. So please join us November the 3rd, same time, same channel here at OpenShift TV. Thank you very much. Ciao.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have a good day.